He who competes openly bleeds publicly. That was the silent rule of Niccolò Machiavelli. You may never find it etched in the prints. You may never hear it quoted in a boardroom. But the most dangerous men in history obeyed it as law. Because Machiavelli understood one thing most people never do. Power is not won by playing the same game, but by rewriting the rules. So only you can win. Open competition. The kind where you show your hand, declare your goals, prove your skill. That is the theater of fools. It is designed to reward those with resources, reputation, and reach. If you are not already powerful, you will lose. So Machiavelli advised a darker, colder path. Never compete where others can see you. Make them believe you're playing the same game. Then quietly shift the board under their feet. This is the rule of hidden advantage. And once you master it, you won't just win. You'll make others believe it was fate. Let me show you how it works. When you see someone dominant, whether it's in business, in love, in politics, your ego may whisper, you can beat them. So you go head to head. You speak louder. You push harder. You try to outshine them in the very field they own, and you lose. Not because you're weak, but because you chose the wrong battlefield. Machiavelli warned, if you must strike a powerful enemy, do not wound them, kill them. Otherwise, you teach them how to destroy you. But most people don't even wound. They irritate, they poke, they provoke, and then they are crushed. Not because they had no talent, but because they fought where they were supposed to disappear. The hidden advantage, you never attack them where they expect. You observe what they protect most. Status, access, admiration, and quietly corner the resource they forgot to guard. Instead of challenging a popular person in conversation, you build private influence with the people they ignore. Instead of copying a successful business model, you absorb its secrets, then dominate a different customer they can't see. That's not defeat. That's asymmetry, and it wins wars. A man might be taller, louder, richer, more experienced. But if you decide what winning means, he will lose. Machiavelli's most subtle manipulations came not from force, but from framing. Instead of competing on charm, you shift the narrative to control. Instead of battling over intelligence, you shift the frame to certainty. Instead of who has more money, you position the game as who can walk away first. He knew if you let them define the game, they'll beat you with it. But if you quietly change what the game rewards, they won't even notice they've been outplayed until it's too late. Here's the method. Let them show off their strength, even praise it. Then anchor the conversation or situation to a domain they're unfamiliar with. Claim comfort, confidence, or insight in that space. But say less. Let others notice that you are unaffected while the strong man burns his energy, proving something no longer valuable. Now you own the frame, and the frame always wins. To compete is to reveal what you want. And Machiavelli knew the moment they know what you want, they can weaponize it. If they know you want respect, they'll withhold it to control you. If they know you want attention, they'll give you just enough to keep you loyal. If they know you want power, they'll position you as the ambitious one, while they play innocent. Desire is leverage, but only for the one who controls it. This is why Machiavellian figures never appear hungry. They never chase. They never confess. They operate through implication. They say maybe. They float ideas without committing. They let others project desire onto them. And most importantly, they build multiple paths to the same goal. While others compete for one spot, they quietly make the room itself theirs. That's not indifference. It's supremacy disguised as silence. In every game, every hierarchy, there's a choke point. It could be access to information, a key relationship, a gatekeeping moment, a resource that determines whether others move forward. While everyone else fights for attention, Machiavelli would acquire the choke point. He'd fund the competition's enemy. He'd win the loyalty of the advisor, not the king. He'd master the system's bottleneck while others argue on the surface. Because when you control the choke point, you don't need to be seen. People come to you. They may not praise you. They may not even know your name, but their path runs through your gate. And that's the only kind of power that matters. Open competition seduces the insecure. It gives them a stage, a reason to scream. Look at me. I'm just as good. But Machiavelli would smile because he knows the game is already lost. To compete openly is to declare equality. But Machiavellian power is never equal. It is positioned, layered, coldly, unspoken. The one who speaks less holds more. The one who competes less wins more. The one who hides his motives never loses. So remember this. If they can see your moves, they can block them. If they can hear your hunger, they can starve you. If they think you're playing the same game, they'll prepare for your strategy. But if you disappear into the shadows, if you move sideways instead of forward, if you build quietly while others perform, you don't just win. You become the rule they never saw coming. A lion shows its teeth. A fox shows nothing. That was Machiavelli's hierarchy of predators. He admired both the strength of the lion and the cunning of the fox. But only one of them survives when power is uncertain, and that is the fox. The one who seems uninvolved, the one who looks like a spectator, but whose actions redirect the course of every outcome. This is not cowardice. It is the ultimate form of control. When others waste energy displaying strength while you can serve yours and win without conflict. This is where the hidden advantage multiplies in silence, in patience, and in the control of perception. Let's go deeper. Leadership is often mistaken for spotlight. Most people believe to lead you must be loud, visible, public. You must take credit, make speeches, wave flags. Machiavelli rejected this completely. He believed that true influence comes from invisibility, that the one who truly controls a kingdom is rarely the one who wears the crown. In fact, the more public you are, the more vulnerable you become. When you lead openly, they criticize you, they plot against you, they study your habits, they prepare for your moves. But when you operate from the shadow, you're underestimated, you're unblamed, you're unseen, and therefore unchallenged. Machiavelli advised rulers to empower others to act in their name and take the blame, while they, the true source of strategy, remained concealed. You don't need the title, you need the leverage. And leverage is quiet. The moment you provoke a strong opponent, you activate their energy. They may have ignored you before, but now you've made it personal. Now they have motivation. So Machiavelli would wait. He would appear indifferent. He would feign agreement. He would let them make noise, claim victories, declare themselves dominant. And while they danced in circles, he'd be watching. Because all ambition burns energy and all arrogance reveals weakness. A person who feels unchallenged becomes sloppy, loose, predictable. That's when you strike, not directly, but through disruption. You influence someone close to them. You sabotage a key resource. You introduce a new incentive that splits their loyalties. You remove something they didn't realize was holding everything together. Now they collapse from within. And the best part? You never had to swing a sword. People defend against what they understand. If they see you competing, they will resist. They will block. They will calculate. But if you appear to be something else entirely, helpful, distracted, naive, their guard lowers. This is how Machiavellian thinkers dominate. They dress their strategy in innocence. A question that sounds curious but reveals a secret. A favor that builds invisible debt. An act of loyalty that secures long-term leverage. A smile that conceals the calculation. This is not deception for deception's sake. This is engineering outcome through narrative. Because once they believe they know what you're doing, they stop looking deeper. And that is where you win under the surface while they sleep. Most people compete not for control, but for applause. They want to be seen. They want to be liked. They want validation from the very people who do not matter. This is the most expensive game you can play. It forces you to sacrifice your independence for temporary admiration. Machiavelli would let others play that game. While they chased approval, he chased advantage. While they collected praise, he collected secrets. While they positioned themselves in front of the crowd, he positioned himself beside the decision maker. Here's what he knew. The world is full of players, loud, desperate, eager to be picked. But the selector, the one who chooses who rises or falls, he is silent. He is in the room but not in the spotlight. Be that person. What drives people to compete in the open? The need to prove? Prove that you're smart. Prove that you're good. Prove that you matter. But Machiavelli understood. The moment you feel the urge to prove, you've already lost status. Because the powerful do not prove, they exist. And their presence creates the proof. If you say dim, look at how strategic I am, you are no longer strategic. If you say, I deserve more, you are now beneath those who act as if they do not need anything. The highest power is not dominance, it is indifference to validation. You cannot be trapped if you do not need their recognition. You cannot be defeated if you're not playing their game. You cannot be outcompeted if no one knows what you're building. So, you stay still. You observe. You wait. You collect leverage in silence. And when the moment is right, you tilt the entire board. It is the illusion of fairness that makes people reveal their strategy. Put a competition in public. Create a system of points, applause, or ranks, and people will gladly surrender their secrets, hoping that performance will carry them forward. But the Machiavellian mind sees through this illusion. He knows fair games are built by those already in power, not to test equality, but to filter obedience. If you want to rise through the official process, you must play predictably, transparently, safely. And that's how they beat you. Not with better skills, but by knowing you'll show your hand because you believe the game is fair. So Machiavelli warned, never show your real moves when the system is watching. Let them think you're playing. Let them think you care. Meanwhile, operate in the shadows. This is where the real power accumulates. The weak try to win within the structure. The powerful restructure the game itself. You see this in every arena. The worker who rises by doing more is eventually replaced. The one who redefines how performance is measured becomes irreplaceable. The man who tries to be more attractive than others becomes exhausted. The one who creates the illusion of being chosen is chased. The player who fights hardest in a zero-sum match may impress. But the one who changes the rules, who decides who plays when, and on what terms, he owns the entire arena. Machiavelli's deepest lesson wasn't to compete strategically. It was to create the rules by which others measure victory. That is the ultimate hidden advantage. They think they're playing the game, but they're actually playing yours. Sometimes the most Machiavellian move is not to compete or retreat, but to set up others to destroy each other. This tactic is as old as kingdoms. If two rivals both desire power, Machiavelli wouldn't fight either directly. He would give one subtle praise, feed the other a whisper, provide both with incomplete information, and then disappear. What follows is predictable accusations, insecurity, distrust, collapse. Meanwhile, he collects loyalty from the ruins. You see this tactic even now in corporations when mid-level players are pitted against each other for a promotion. In relationships when emotional tension is directed laterally, not upwards. In politics where rival groups destroy each other while a third rises in silence. Machiavelli didn't win with dominance. He won with confusion. If they don't know who the enemy is, they cannot unite. And if they can't unite, you'd never have to fight them. People seek recognition. But Machiavelli sought power. This is where most people fail. They believe being seen is being successful. But visibility is not power. It's liability. When they see you rise, they resist. When they hear you plan, they prepare. When they know you want, they gatekeep. So the truly powerful do something different. They relinquish applause in exchange for authority. They don't run the show. They run the person who runs the show. They don't claim the idea. They fund the idea. They don't lead the conversation. They direct who speaks. This requires one thing: emotional detachment from being known. The weak want to be the face. The strategist wants to own the system behind the face because the applause fades, but the control remains. The final rule is brutal, and most never follow it because it requires patience. Silence, non-reactivity, long-term commitment to outcomes others can't see yet. While everyone else fights for today's victory, Machiavelli was planting structures that would collapse his enemies a year later. He'd lose the argument to win the throne. He'd accept being mocked to avoid being noticed. He'd nod while the king gloated, knowing the king's advisor had already pledged allegiance to him. Outshining someone brings attention. Outlasting them brings inheritance. Your enemies will eventually self-destruct from arrogance. lose allies by overreaching, and be replaced for being too dominant. You don't need to destroy them. You simply need to be the last one standing when they implode. But to do this, you must train a brutal skill. Delayed vengeance, silent victory, quiet building. That is how you bury kings without raising a sword. The deadliest mistake is being figured out. Once they know you play in shadows, they'll never let you near the levers of control again. They'll study your moves. They'll preempt your strategies. They'll lock you out. So, Machiavelli's greatest victory was always psychological. He made you think he was harmless, loyal, predictable, until one day everything tilted in his favor because he didn't compete in the open. He created the conditions where he could not lose. What most people don't realize is this: the most dangerous man in the room is never the one in the center. It's the one who built the room. And that was Machiavelli's final form. Not the competitor, not the ruler, not the warrior, but the architect. He created environments where every option led back to him, where others believed they had a choice. But every road, every ally, every escape was pre-designed to benefit him. This is the peak of the hidden advantage. Not playing the game better than others, but constructing the game itself so that others unknowingly serve your ends. Let me show you how this is done. Most people waste time managing people, convincing them, arguing with them, pleading, threatening, persuading. But Machiavelli had no interest in that. He controlled the environment, the incentives, the beliefs, the perceptions, and let others adjust themselves. Think about it. Instead of demanding loyalty, he created a situation where betrayal was more dangerous than obedience. Instead of threatening consequences, he surrounded you with people who would lose if you acted against him. Instead of asking to be followed, he positioned himself as the only viable alternative to chaos. He made the smart move feel like your own idea. And this is the key. You don't win by dominating the person. You win by dominating their options. When you engineer the conditions, people will behave how you want and think it was their choice. One of Machiavelli's coldest tactics was the illusion of freedom. He would offer two options, one more cruel, one more subtle, but both led to his desired result. If someone had to choose between public embarrassment or accepting his offer, they'd choose the offer and feel empowered for doing so. But that's the trick. They felt like they had avoided defeat, when in reality they walked exactly where he wanted them. This works everywhere. In negotiation, you offer them two deals, one fair, one outrageous. They picked the fair one, not realizing it still tilted in your favor. In relationships, you show less interest. Now they choose to pursue you, not knowing you designed the void that made them crave you. In status games, you act disinterested in the outcome. Now they feel insecure and start chasing your validation. You didn't push. You just arranged the room so that chasing you felt like escape. If they fear you, they will defend. But if they underestimate you, you can do anything. Machiavelli often played the fool. He let others think they had more knowledge, more charm, more strength. And that illusion became their undoing. Because once they relax, they reveal their priorities, their alliances, their weaknesses, their pride. And then when it matters, you act. Not flamboyantly, not with drama, but with one surgical move that breaks their illusion of control. And since they never saw you coming, they can't recover. That's not just strategy. That's theater. And you're the invisible director? Never tell them everything. This is the hidden weapon of the Machiavellian, the information gap. When people don't know what you think, they reveal more. When they don't know what you want, they make offers. When they don't know what you plan, they fill the silence with their insecurities. Machiavelli weaponized this silence. He didn't lie. He simply didn't clarify. And in that vacuum, others overstepped. They made the first move. They confessed motives. They showed all their cards just to feel safe. That's when he struck. Because the one who knows more but shows less always wins. What separates Machiavellian dominance from surface-level tricks is this. He didn't just manipulate people. He built systems while others fought for attention or influence. He built silent infrastructure, a network of loyal intermediaries who owed him favors, a chain of alliances where he was the unifying threat or promise, a reputation designed not for popularity but for inevitability. And over time, this became self-sustaining. He didn't need to act. The system acted on his behalf. He didn't need to chase power. It flowed to him because removing him would collapse everything. This is the final form of hidden advantage. When you become the silent keystone, everyone around you can change. New rulers rise, old ones fall, trends shift, alliances break, but you remain because you were never competing in the first place. You are building the system that competitors depend on. Here is the final law, the one Machiavelli lived by in silence. The moment you compete openly, you become predictable, and the predictable man dies quickly. They will measure you, price you, copy you, corner you. But the man they cannot see, the man they think is beneath them, the man whose motives are unreadable, that man is invincible. He is not trapped by public loss. He is not addicted to public praise. He is not weakened by jealousy or noise or pressure, because he does not play their game. He builds his own and makes others believe it was always there. That is the rule of hidden advantage. And once you master it, the world doesn't just obey.